Trump's recent attacks against the judiciary over the temporary block of his Muslim travel ban have now led him into a possible confrontation and conflict with his own Supreme Court nominee. Now, we're not going to go through all of the things he's said about the judges who are considering keeping this hold on the travel ban, but here is one thing that he said recently. I don't ever want to call a court biased, so I won't call it biased. But courts seem to be so political, and it would be so great for our justice system if they would be able to read a statement and do what's right, which is him saying in his third grade level way that the courts should not challenge me, they should not consider challenges to me, they should just read statements saying I'm awesome and my policies are great. And he went on to say that if there's a terror attack, the judges who stopped the Muslim travel ban will be responsible for it, even though the sorts of people that this stops have never been found to commit acts of terrorism inside of the U.S., calling them so-called judges when they are in fact judges. We looked into it. These are scary things if you're worried about checks and balances on the Trump administration. And it turns out that some people who aren't libs are also worried about his attacks on the judiciary. You're going to see that in this video.
My strong hope is that he will be more vehement publicly. He certainly expressed to me that he is disheartened by the demoralizing and abhorrent comments made by President Trump about the judiciary, but I will be asking for more specific and forthcoming responses to those kinds of questions before I determine how I will vote.
So that's Senator Blumenthal, a Democrat, talking about a meeting with Gorsuch, who is the nominee for the Supreme Court, saying that Gorsuch is concerned about these attacks against the judiciary. Now, you could reflect on that as a president and think, why is it that I've already scared the man on my side of things, who I've offered up one of these amazing jobs? Why would he feel like he needs to speak out in defense of an independent judiciary? You could do that. Trump has chosen not to. Instead, in this next clip, you're going to see him attacking the literal messenger.
Gorsuch's comments about you, sir?
You misrepresented his comments totally.
I just want to ask you what your thoughts were, sir.
His comments were misrepresented, and what you should do is ask Senator Blumenthal about his Vietnam record that didn't exist after years of saying it did. So ask Senator Blumenthal about his Vietnam record. He misrepresented that just like he misrepresented Judge Gorsuch.
I want to ask you about your Vietnam record.
I looked into it. 5 deferrals.
Oh,
never
okay.
served. So yes, very briefly, Senator Blumenthal exaggerated his service in the military during the Vietnam War. He did actually serve in the Marine Reserves. He admitted to that 7 years ago. Now, Trump would love us to get off onto a long tangent on this little distraction, but no, we're going back to Gorsuch and his comments in defense of the judiciary. So there, it's a Democrat who said it. So Trump is going to try to pretend that Gorsuch didn't actually say that. But unfortunately, it's not just Blumenthal, as you'll see with Senator Sass, a Republican.
Disheartening is a great word. Judge Gorsuch and I actually talked about that, and frankly, he got pretty passionate about it. I asked him about the so-called judges comment, because we don't have so-called judges or so-called presidents or so-called senators. And this is a guy who kind of welled up with some energy, and he said any attack on any of, I think his term to me was brothers or sisters of the robe, is an attack on all judges, and he believes in an independent judiciary. And I think what I saw in that guy is he got some energy about it.
I think that he's probably being honest there, because I can't imagine anyone would make up the phrase brothers and sisters of the robe. That seems like a weird thing to say.
It sounds like something you'd hear in Game of Thrones.
It totally does. I was just thinking that too.
Yeah.
And look, it's not crazy to believe that Gorsuch would have a problem with Trump trying to get people to distrust the judiciary. Especially, this isn't the first time that Trump has done that. We know that months ago during the general election, he was attacking the judge of Hispanic descent. This is a guy who is, like a dictator, violently opposed, at least philosophically, to a judiciary providing a check on executive power.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't know that that's the role in the Constitution that the judiciary has, but he certainly doesn't like it now that it's him that's being checked.
So based on, the reading that I've done on Judge Neil Gorsuch, look, I don't agree with every ruling that he's made. I think that he is a pro-corporate judge and has ruled in favor of corporations over the best interests of the people on various occasions. However, I do feel like he is someone who actually values the role of the Supreme Court and values the role of judges in this country. He understands the importance of it. He understands the importance of precedent, which honestly stood out to me. And that was something that I noticed over and over again. It was a trend as I was researching him. And so he isn't my favorite pick for to replace Antonin Scalia in the Supreme Court, but he seems like a reasonable person. And so I think that he would be concerned about some of the statements that Donald Trump has made. And I think having a Republican come out and openly say, oh yeah, no, that was the reaction he had to Donald Trump it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
It makes me feel better about him. And I might not agree with all of his rulings, but I think that he, out of everyone that Donald Trump has nominated, is one of the more reasonable individuals.
I agree. With that said, I don't think he should ever be confirmed. In fact, look, I would be willing, of all the things that the Democrats should hold the line exactly as long as they can, I would say because Merrick Garland was denied the seat, I wouldn't confirm anyone. I would go as long as possible. They set up the precedent. I would continue it. I don't know eventually when that stops, and I assume that we will eventually get Gorsuch on the court, but I would never vote to confirm for anyone for that seat. That is not Donald Trump's seat to nominate someone for.
I am a huge fan of tit for tat, quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. And you know me, like I'm salty and I like a little bit of revenge. However, I feel like you need to pick your battles. And one of my fears is that, okay, they're frustrated about what happened with Obama's nominee and so they want to retaliate. I just don't think that in this particular case it's going to be productive, and I don't think it's going to be a good idea. I'm
willing to be irrational on this one.
Okay, I know.
Even if it's not productive.
And I get where your logic comes from, but at the same time, there is a lot to fight Trump on. And out of
Supreme Court lasts for seat there. He could be on there for 30 years.
I understand, but I would prefer Judge Gorsuch over any other potential crazy person that Donald Trump might try to nominate.
That is possible.
Yes.
But I would say, in defense of my position, some of you in the audience might say, okay, well, if you do that and you refuse, the Democrats refuse to confirm someone, then when a Democrat gets back in office, will it ever end? Will the Republicans just not confirm someone? But I want to reassure you, that's what the Republicans are going to do regardless, because they just learned under Obama that they can get away with it if they want. It was 1 year that a president doesn't get before the end of his term to nominate someone under Obama. What will it be under the next president? If it's President Sanders in 4 or 8 years, is it 2 years that you don't get to nominate someone? 3 years? They're emboldened. So I say screw them. I do the same exact thing to them. But anyway,
President Sanders.
we'll see. It's still it's a long way off.
Whisper of a dream.
Exactly. One more clip for you, though, because some of you, I just saw a poll about people, if they accept that the Trump administration is telling them lies regularly, and the vast majority of Republicans, 9 out of 10, say it's a truthful administration. Half of the public says it's truthful, higher than for the media. And I want you to be very clear that you will be lied to by Donald Trump and by his representatives on a daily basis. And so right there, you've had from a Democrat and from a Republican confirmation that this is what Gorsuch said. He said it in response to a question about Trump by Senator Sass. Now, we all know the facts. Let's see what the official press secretary for President Trump, how he describes what happened.
Does the president have any regrets about the comments that he's made about federal judges?
I think the president's comments speak for them. No, he has no regrets, but he's very proud of the selection he's made, and he's going to make a great associate justice of the Supreme Court.
About the comments that he said, for example, about Judge
I understand that, and yes, he has no regrets.
Senator Ayotte, who is working with the White House to help shepherd Judge Gorsuch through the Hill, released a statement confirming those same remarks, disheartening and demoralizing.
Right. So here's what Senator.
Was the president aware of that? Because she was in that meeting.
No, of course he's aware. This is what Senator Ayotte said. Judge Gorsuch had made it very clear in all of his discussions with senators, including Senator Blumenthal, that he could not comment on specific cases, and that judicial ethics prevent him from commenting on political matters. He has also emphasized the importance of an independent judiciary, and while he made clear that he was not referencing any specific case, he said that he finds any criticism of a judge's integrity and independence disheartening and demoralizing. As a whole, he doesn't like attacks in general on the judiciary. It was a very distinct argument that he was making. The judge was very clear that he was not commenting on any specific matter, right? And then he was asked about his general philosophy. So you can't then take that, equate it back to the specific. Cecilia.
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that demoralizing and disheartening was not specifically about the president's comments and what he said? And if so, how does the president know that?
I think the judge literally made it very clear in his comments. I understand that. Senator Ayotte, who was there, made it very clear that he was commenting in general about attacks on the judiciary. That was it, plain and simple.
Your answer about the context doesn't make sense when you think about what Senator Ben Sasse said today and this morning on TV. He said that he asked Gorsuch specifically about the president's so-called judge tweet, and in response...
Phil, this is like the fourth time I've asked an answer.
No, but this is a different context.
Sean, I'm going to continue on this line despite what's happening there. Why isn't the White House, why isn't the president concerned about the influence or the appearance of the influence on the independent judiciary?
Why isn't he? He is free to speak his mind. Where has this outrage been for the last 100 years? So I'm not sure how many more times I can read the code to you, but 8 U.S. Code 1182.
Me talking about it is not how the judicial process works.
Thank you. You've asked the question now 8 times.
So he denies what we know is true, is that Gorsuch's comments were specifically about Trump's behavior. And I don't care whether they eventually have a big argument about it. What I do care is somewhat reassuring that Gorsuch does care about the judiciary, since he's going to potentially be a Supreme Court judge or justice. But I'm glad that the last reporter there brought it back around to what's important, is that we do need the executive branch to respect the rulings of judges. Because judges don't have armies, okay? They have their decisions, and they have the respect and precedent, the tradition of respecting what they say. If Donald Trump is attacking them now, do we know that he'll actually abide by a court ruling in the future?
That's my concern.
And if we just accept these attacks against the judiciary, can we be surprised in 6 months or a year when he just totally rips up and ignores what the judges say? If they throw out the travel ban permanently, if they overturn some other important executive order he has, we should be concerned about that. And that is at the heart of what this debate is all about.
Absolutely. I think that the reporters who asked all those questions in that press conference deserve credit. Usually you don't see reporters in the press pool asking follow-ups as aggressively and, basically forcing the press secretary to stay on topic, right? And so I just want to give them credit, because we do give reporters a lot of heat for not doing their jobs appropriately. And in that case, they were being tough on him. And I really enjoyed seeing that. And I also enjoyed the very nasty look that Spicer gave to one of the reporters early on in that video. You should rewind and take a quick look at that.
Yeah, dude was like, come on, I lied to you 4 times. Do I have to lie to you again?
Exactly.
I think with both him and Kellyanne Conway, there's blood in the water. I think that the reporters know that these are people that are already a little bit on the bad side of Donald Trump and are a little bit weak. They can get easily flustered, and that's why I think they're willing to go really hard and strong against them.
Get the full 2-hour show ad-free. Become a member, tytnetwork.com/join.